New rule, blend your makeup. It's supposed to go all the way to the hairline. Jeez, that's something you learn in your first year at clown college. New rule, if you're one of the people who waited 11 hours on this Brooklyn sidewalk to buy a limited edition craft beer, congratulations, you make Star Wars fans look cool. At least they get to see a movie. You just get drunk and have to stand in another line. New rule, just to mess with Republicans, every one of these old trucks filled with lawn equipment must be adorned with this bumper sticker. Don't blame me, I illegally voted for Hillary 27 times. New rule, since Harrison Ford nearly flew his private plane into an airliner this week, it's time for him to find another useless hobby. You're an actor. How about drugs? Or Scientology, or colorful orphans. If I want to die in a fiery crash with a Ford, I'll buy a Pinto. Or look, maybe I'm wrong and he's a great pilot and the fault is all with his co-pilot. New rule, you can't call it the swimsuit edition when she isn't wearing a swimsuit. Call it what it is, the I'm wearing the thing that used to hold my spider plant edition. And finally, new rule, someone has to tell me what's magic about a capital R. The kind that goes after your name if you're a Republican. Because if you have one of those, you can get away with pretty much anything when it comes to selling out, cursing out, or compromising your own country. You know, when it was Hillary Clinton with an unsecure email server, Republicans wanted to lock her up. But President Trump still uses the unsecure Android phone he had before he got elected. And he has been warned that with an old consumer-grade phone like that, someone could easily hack into his Twitter account and start posting crazy messages. And how would we be able to tell? So a couple of weeks before the Super Bowl, Bill O'Reilly asked Trump why he always defended Putin, who O'Reilly said was a killer. A reasonable question, since the last two guys who were as cozy as Putin and Trump held their bilateral talks on Brokeback Mountain. But again, Trump took Putin's side over America, saying, we got killers here too. You think our country's so innocent? If a Democrat said that before the Super Bowl, they would be in Guantanamo Bay by halftime. Same as they would if they did this. But if you have the magic R, no problem. Trump repeatedly said he was going to donate to military charities, then didn't, then lied about it. He compared our intelligence agencies to Nazis. He said McCain, who spent 5 years in a Vietnamese prison, wasn't a war hero because I like people who weren't captured. I gotta say to all you flag-waving right-wingers who always say, I'm not just gonna stand here and let you run down America, you're standing there and letting Trump run down America. Donald Trump could go to the tomb of the unknown soldier and say, well, maybe if he'd done something, he wouldn't be so unknown. And Republicans would be okay with that, too. When Trump said I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose voters, he wasn't making a joke. He's never made a joke. Unless his entire life is some sort of Andy Kaufman-style performance art, in which case, stop it. No, he was simply stating an actual fact for once, which is, if you have the magic R after your name, you can drive a Hummer through a daycare center, and Fox News will say the babies were asking for it. Meanwhile, in the alternative universe, where a Democrat is president, Obama once said, "We have not been perfect." And for 8 years, Republicans screamed that he was on a nonstop apology tour. They lost their shit whenever there was a picture of him committing high crimes like not having his hand over his heart during a song or saluting with coffee in his hand, even though this guy did it with a dog. Yeah, that guy, the one who sat frozen for 7 minutes after being told the words, "The country is under attack." And Republicans defended that. And we all just accept this. America is the Republican Party's bitch, and they can criticize and betray her, but you can't. Even though Obama spent 2 terms talking up the troops, talking up the country, how much he loved it, how in no other country is my story even possible, didn't matter. Conservatives all nodded when Rudy Giuliani said, "I do not believe that President Obama loves America." As opposed to Giuliani, who happened to be mayor on 9/11, so that made him America's mayor, a hero whose great act of heroism was nothing fell on his head. To paraphrase Donald Trump, I like mayors who don't let towers collapse. A few weeks ago, an old but very smoking gun emerged from the Nixon era when it came out that in 1968, when President Lyndon Johnson was trying to end the war in Vietnam, candidate Richard Nixon was actively, purposefully undermining the peace talks because he wanted the war to go on so he could have it as an election issue. You would think that the America First crowd would find that a bridge too far. Fuck no. Dick Cheney once outed a CIA agent just to say fuck you to her husband. Reagan sold weapons to Iran, the country they all want to bomb now, in brazen defiance of American law. And instead of being impeached, he was elevated to sainthood and now rides horses in heaven with Jesus. Why do Republicans get away with this? Why do they have patriotic immunity? America is like a dysfunctional family where the Democrats are the older, mature son who works hard and does everything right, but somehow is never good enough. And the Republicans are the young asshole son who's a fuck-up, but no matter how many times he crashes the Camaro, Daddy buys him a new one. I know it's not really important, like which department stores are selling Ivanka's panty liners, but... You know, all of America's intelligence agencies say a foreign power tampered with our election to favor the Republican. And they say also that they don't trust that Republican, our president, with our state secrets. And yet the theme of Trump's inaugural was America First. Please. His ego is first, his hotels are second, Russia's third. I'd be surprised if America made the top 10. Thank you very much. That's our show. I'll be at the Mirage in Vegas, March 10th and 11th. I want to thank Malcolm Nance, Larry Wilmore, the very disturbed now Jack Kingston, Leah Remini, and Milo Yiannopoulos. Join us now for Overtime on YouTube. New rule, if Trump wants to pick a fight with Canada, he has to come up with a better reason than they're killing us on Canadian softwood. If you hate Mexicans and you hate lumber, just bomb Home Depot. And if you can't stand Canadian softwood, take out Justin Bieber. New rule, any guy who spends $425 for these pre-dirtied jeans must be prepared to answer a lot of questions like, what's wrong with you? This look doesn't say, I'm a working man. It says, my Chipotle burrito just backfired. New rule, if you want to reach people who can afford to buy a house, don't advertise where they wait for the bus. You're in real estate. What part of location don't you understand? This doesn't say, I want to be your broker. It says, when you think of me, think of a crackhead sitting on my face.
Oh, man.
New rule, Brooklyn's taco squirrel and Manhattan's pizza rat have to get together for lunch. It'll be an internet sensation. Plus, it'll give you two a chance to talk shit about that asshole cronut raccoon. New rule, if you take Movantik, the drug to treat opioid-induced constipation, you can't also use medical marijuana. I'm no doctor, but come on. Either shit or get off the pot. And finally, new rule, liberals have to stop trying to win over Trump voters with facts. You're wasting your breath, and you're going to need it because the air is not getting any better. Just look at these 100 days headlines. No regrets, Trump voters, unanimous. The myth of this disillusioned Trump voter. Even voters in liberal Massachusetts are sticking with Trump. Numbskulls find whole new level of numb. All right, I made that last one up, but the point is, Trump supporters aren't changing their minds because the problem isn't in the mind, it's lower. It's emotional. Stop clinging to the false hope that if we just share this Facebook story about the time that he tried to have lunch with Frederick Douglass or high-five Stevie Wonder or criticized Obama for playing golf and now he plays more golf, you're preaching to the yoga studio. The jury is in. He looks and acts like a man who's been painting his face with orange lead for 40 years. His people know they don't care. He could have Anne Frank's skeleton in his closet. They'd all vote for him again. The question is why? Why do they stick with him? I think it's because of a gut feeling that the world has changed and they don't like it. And Trump is going to change it back to the way it was. When a real American could flip around looking for a radio station and not have to hear mariachi music. The media keeps saying that the thing that got Trump elected was economic anxiety, but it's really more change anxiety. I ain't no racist, but why does America need to have a black Santa Claus? Does everybody have to do everything? Now, I think I speak for most liberals when I say I'm okay with Black Santa. I don't think it's going to make the little drummer boy start cutting himself. But to Trump voters, making Santa black is unthinkable. It would be like making Jesus Middle Eastern. This is why building that stupid wall is still the key issue for them, because it represents keeping out not just immigrants, but everything that's new and different and scary and unfamiliar. You guys probably agree with me that it's kind of cool that you can write a musical in hip-hop now, like Hamilton. And I'm okay with seeing this guy playing this guy. But Trump voters don't want to see that the founding fathers have been funkified. Ain't Broadway supposed to be the great white way? And while we're at it, does everyone in baseball have to be Mexican now? Lopez, Hernandez, Martinez, Fernandez, Ramirez. When did the Yankees become the parking lot at Home Depot?
Oh, golly.
And what is it with men kissing on the kiss cam? And did I mention Bruce Jenner has tits now? See, that guy, my new character, that guy got used to having the whole country always bend over backwards to make him feel comfortable. Trump voters, they're not exactly racists. They just think everyone who's not white is doing it to show off. You know, in the 50s, if you were an actor named Chiwetel Ejiofor, you placated conservative snowflakes and bent over backwards for them and changed your name to Chip Egan. Chip Egan, starring in that new movie with Dan Houston, Lily Nile, Mark Allen, Ginger McGraw, and Gail Smith. If you ask a Trump voter what exactly it means to get their country back or make it great again, they can't tell you specifically, but they know the Hollywood Squares was never supposed to be remade on TV and look like this. If we just would build that wall, black people would stay in their cubicles. Paul Lynde never came out of his cubicle or the closet. All right, that's our show. I'll be at the Civic Center in Des Moines, May 7th. Walt Disney in Orlando, July 8th, and at the Ruth Eckerd in Clearwater on the 9th. I want to thank Nick Hanover, Tara Setmeyer, Rob Reiner. Thanks for a lot of things. Thanks for keeping your sanity. Are you keeping your sanity? How are you holding up under all this? What about you?
Doing
Congress?
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Every day, a new adventure.
I'll bet it is. So, you know, I sometimes watch the other channels to see what they're saying because we do live in two different universes. And when I see MSNBC or CNN, it's a lot about what you're saying. On Fox News, the talking point is always, let's just wrap this up because after all this time, there's no there. What do you say to the no there people? Is there a there?
If there was no there, James Comey would still have a job. And I think, what I think is so important to get across about this, because at the root of this is why should people care about this? And as important as the collusion issue is, there's a lot at stake here, even beyond that. And what people need to recognize, the Russians intervened not just because they wanted to help Donald Trump and not just because they hated Hillary Clinton. They intervened because they wanted to tear down our democracy, just as they wanted to tear down the democracy in France with Marine Le Pen and why they'd like to see Angela Merkel defeated. There is a real struggle of ideas around the world of authoritarianism versus democracy. Putin is leading the autocratic vanguard, and he has imitators in Cairo and Ankara, Turkey, and the Philippines. There's a real struggle, and you have a president of the United States
loves dictators,
loves these authoritarian figures, and probably the most distressing headline I have seen since the last endless 110 days was when Angela Merkel came to visit. The headline in Politico was, "Leader of the free world meets Donald Trump."
Right.
And this was so painful.
It is painful, yeah.
And it's not only, I think, disastrous for the United States internally because he has provoked and continued these terrible divisions in our country, but he is dimming the beacon of hope for the rest of the world. People that are in prison because they demonstrated in Tahrir Square and they were the secular opponents of the regime, and people in the Philippines who lost loved ones when they were murdered in extrajudicial fashion, they look to the United States to speak for them. And it's a grave tragedy all over the world if we lose that mantle of leadership. And that's, I think, part of what's at stake, why we need to get to the bottom of what the Russians did here, what the Russians are doing in Europe, and how we fight back.
And so, in a bizarre series of weeks, it seemed like this week was stranger than even the ones that came before, because it did seem to me like he may have admitted to committing a crime. He said that almost said word for word that he fired Comey because the Russia thing, in his opinion, isn't real. That seems like obstruction of justice. He also was asked, did you ask Comey for his loyalty? And he said, no, I didn't, but that's a great idea. Which also is illegal, correct?
It is staggering. Plainly what he did, if you can believe him, was at a minimum unethical, improper, etc. Whether it's illegal also depends on whether you think he's telling the truth. Ironically, the most incriminating things are if you believe him, but of course when it comes to Russia, you really can't believe what this president is saying. And here he's, compounding that by saying, Director Comey, you better look out because I may have tapes. So is it worse if he's telling the truth and he is guilty of what he accused his predecessor of, wiretapping people in the White House? Or is it worse that the President of the United States will just willy-nilly tell the American people things that are patently untrue?
But if the Republicans had on Hillary, if she was president now and said the same thing, I do feel that they would have drawn up impeachment charges already. I worry that the Democrats are still too nice, and I've asked Democrats about this before.
Well,
and sometimes what their answer is we don't want to stoop to their level, to which I say, yes, stoop a little. You know what? Stooping in the defense of liberty is no vice. Well, and you guys, really, it's a bar fight.
First of all, I think you're right. Democrats are too nice. I'm too nice.
Well, what can we do to make you a mean little...
I'll give you a...
German shepherd who was beaten too much.
I'll give you a perfect illustration of where we were too nice. And that is, while the Russian hacking operation was going on, we knew it was going on.
You're talking about 2016, during the campaign.
During the campaign.
Obama knew.
The president knew.
Did not use it.
Well, the president didn't come out early and forceful in condemnation of what the Russians were doing. In fact, Senator Feinstein and I had to come out before our own government was willing, before the administration was willing to attribute the hack to Russia. And here you had a situation where Donald Trump, candidate Trump, in July of last year, is saying openly, never mind what his people might be doing privately, he's saying openly, hey, Russia, if you're listening, hack Hillary Clinton's emails, you'll be richly rewarded. And where Democrats fell down on the job in two ways. One, the administration should have gotten out there and condemned Russia and called for sanctions then, not after the election. But they were too worried, I think, about being perceived as putting their hand on the scale. And where all of us in the Democratic Party fell down on the job is we failed to persuade the American people, who largely knew what the Russians were doing, why they should care. And unfortunately, more people
cared. And
cared.
why should they, excuse me, why should they hate Republicans? This is treason. This is colluding with the enemy. I mean, even what you just said about Donald Trump inviting them to hack. If this was, the shoe was on the other foot, they would not hesitate to use that. If they knew that the investigation was going on, as Obama knew, he didn't say anything because he didn't want it to look bad.
Well, and when he did say something, when the president did that press conference, I think he really did put his finger on this, and he was marveling at just what you're saying. How is it that the party of Ronald Reagan could condone a foreign adversarial party, let alone Russia, intervene in our democratic affairs? And his answer was, look, we have gotten to a point where the partisanship is such that for the party of Reagan, it's okay if Russians intervene as long as it's to help us. The reason why the Russians were successful is because we are so bitterly divided. And one of the reasons this president is so destructive is he keeps feeding those divisions. And he also keeps playing into the Russian narrative that is behind the dismantling of democracy. And that is, okay, in Russia, we're not a democracy, we're a thugocracy, we're a kleptocracy, we don't make any bones about it anymore. But you know something? America is too. They're just a bunch of hypocrites. And we have a president of the United States who goes on the, may he rest in television peace, Bill O'Reilly's program, and he's asked, why can't you criticize Putin? The man's a killer, and his answer is, are we so different? That's
a lot of killers.
You couldn't write that in the Kremlin.
Congressman.
You couldn't write that in the Kremlin any better.
Well, how about having the Russians into the Oval Office? I mean, Kislyak is their spy master in this country. He's got that Android phone. I'm not the first one to say this. The security people are saying that he's still using the Android phone after they hung her for using the wrong computer a few times to send out wedding invitations or whatever the hell was going on there. They probably already, well, they probably already own them. What am I talking about? Does it really matter? That
in the category of you can't make this up, which is the category we live in now,
right?
You have photographs of Kislyak and Lavrov with the president, not because our own press is allowed in, but because the Russians take the pictures. And they're published in the Russian media. So why can't the Democrats
make this sale? You're either with us or with the Russians. Remember Bush? You're either with us or with the Chinese.
You know, I will.
I feel like that's all I want to hear.
I will tell you this. If there was ever a time in our history where the argument there has to be a check on this executive, we need to change the Congress so there is a Democratic House or Senate or both, because this president needs a restraint, that argument is now.
Well, I feel like people are making that argument. Do we have some footage of that town hall? I mean, people are going to town halls now and yelling at Republicans based on the Russia story, right?
We need a bipartisan select committee to investigate this. When are you going to open your eyes? We all see it. Why? You don't see what's going on? You don't see it? When are you going to decide to be an American and not a politician?
Okay, that's what I want you to sound like. How can they?
I can assure you, in the White House, that's what they think I sound like.
Okay. How can they govern if that's what's brewing out in America? What are the Republicans saying to each other behind closed doors? They must be shitting their pants. Come on.
Well, you know, they.
It's HBO. I have to do it. It's in my contract.
You can say it. I can't.
I know.
They all want something from this president before the wheels come completely off the wagon. They want their tax cuts. They want their regulatory repeal of the mining regulations, etc.
Money.
And then they'll find their spine.
Right.
There are a few people who are speaking out, and I think, frankly, this is John McCain's finest hour. Probably his most important public service since Vietnam is what he is doing now. And I wish we had more Republicans in the House, or maybe even one in the House, who was willing to follow his example.
So I know back in March you said that the case with the Russia collusion is more than circumstantial. Can you tell us anything more? And if you can't tell us that, can you tell us, like, when you picture Donald Trump in, say, 2 years, what is he wearing? Like, is he,
you know, I'm already
orange, maybe.
I'm already trying to get the image of him in a bathrobe out of my head.
Right. All right.
You know, I don't know, honestly, where the investigation will end up. It's too early to say. It's a mammoth undertaking because it's global in reach. It involves a lot of witnesses who may or may not want to cooperate with us. We're working with a very small staff. One of the reasons why it's so important that we oversee the FBI investigation and not let that go or be impeded in any way, they have the scope, they have the resources, they have thousands of agents all across the globe. There are things they can do and must do that we can't. So part of our responsibility is doing our own investigation, and we are trying. part of our obligation is to make sure the FBI does the job they need to do.
All right, well, there's nothing riding on this except the First Amendment to the Constitution, freedom of the press, and maybe the fate of the country. But if you screw it up, I'm going to get mad.
No pressure.
All right, thank you, Congress. Okay. All right, so Al, you know, I've talked to you personally about how, you know, I'm a great admirer because you do things that the rest of us wouldn't do, like have lunch with Republican senators.
It's fun.
So you know what they're saying behind closed doors. They must be kind of going batshit over this Donald Trump administration. To give us a little insight into what's happening behind the scenes.
Well, there's a range in what they'll say. And some will say that he's not right mentally. And then some are harsher. No, that's not fair. All right. That was cheap. That was cheap. There are some who, I guess, don't talk to me. And, you know, I haven't heard a lot of good things, and I've heard some great concern about the president's temperament.
Okay. Well, that's very diplomatic of you.
Not very, was it? I don't think this was diplomatic. But okay, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I saw this today. 51% of Trump voters think Trump should personally be able to overturn decisions by judges. I know you and I are both people who believe in civics, because we're old enough to remember when they taught civics in school. I remember when you used to be, I've seen you do this on TV, draw a map of the United States from
That's geography. Civics? No, okay.
Well,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's why you're in the Senate on my HBO,
Al. What's interesting about that, I saw that. I think it came out last night or something, and this is apropos the decision by the Ninth Circuit. That didn't surprise me, that 52 or 51% of Trump voters. What was heartening was that it was only about 25% of Americans. So that means that it was only about 5 or 10% of Americans didn't understand civics or didn't understand that the federal judiciary is independent.
Okay. I mean, it was frightening to me that anybody in America would basically be saying we should make this man, of all people, a dictator, because that's what this says.
I know, but it said that 48 or 49% of Trump voters understood this, and that's good. That's good. I really, you know,
Boy, Washington has really made you an optimist, Al, and I appreciate that.
It's half full.
Yeah, tactful. Okay. So, all right. So
I don't know what they're half full of, but they're half full.
Okay. So you're going to meet with the man that Donald Trump wants to put on the Supreme Court, right?
Yes.
You're on that committee. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm hoping you're going to say to him, your name is not Merrick Garland, so I can't vote for you.
I was asked by the White House counsel who, because I'm on the Judiciary Committee, who I would like to see appointed. I did say Merrick Garland, and or someone like Merrick Garland, who's a consensus guy. But my feeling, we're going to have hearings. You know, I think this guy, I don't want another 5-4 conservative activist judiciary that is that votes to Citizens United and that. So this guy's going to have to overcome a huge bar for me.
Okay, but isn't it not about the qualifications, but about the fact that that pick was stolen?
Yes.
And,
it was.
And, you know, I mean...
I agree with you. But what are we going to do about it?
The Democrats cannot let that stand. We cannot have two rules, one for Republicans and one for Democrats. And look,
okay, Bill, I hear everybody applauding, but just stop applauding for a second. They have the majority, and we can't stop them from having hearings, and so we're going to have hearings. Now, what I'm saying is that the Roberts Court has been a pro-activist, pro-corporate, pro-pollution, pro-big money in campaigns and in elections, and I'm not going to okay another 5-4 Roberts Court.
Okay, all right. So, Time magazine came out for impeaching Donald Trump.
Is that the cover? Is that the cover?
I have no doubt that if Hillary Clinton was president, they would already have begun impeachment and hearings. It doesn't matter about what. They just would have done it. Time says the emoluments clause, which is basically, and obviously the Trump family is in violation of this. You cannot take gifts from foreign countries. They're doing it all the time. To say nothing of the mental problem. Al, when will the impeachment hearing start?
Let me remind you again that the Republicans are in the majority. So I think it's months and months away.
Really?
I know everybody wants a quick fix on this, but this is going to be a bit of a marathon. But I'm so encouraged. You're right that what this week has been incredibly encouraging, and the energy around the country. We're seeing red districts where people are showing up at the town halls. Hundreds of people are showing up at the town halls. There's a tremendous amount of energy, and I want to encourage people to keep that up.
Right.
And it really helps. And we got hundreds of thousands of calls about Betsy DeVos at the Senate, and that makes a difference because she is on notice now. And she's not going to be able to do a lot of the things that I think she wanted to do because of that.
Like walk into a public
school. What you people do makes a huge difference.
She couldn't even do that today. It would have been the first time. Okay, so Donald Trump...
The first time in a public school?
Yeah, she could. There were protesters who wouldn't let her walk into the school.
Yeah, and it would have been the first time. I got the joke now. The audience was laughing so hard.
All right, last question now, then I'll let you go. I appreciate your time. Okay. Politico says that there was a meeting yesterday, and Donald Trump, with 10 senators, 6 of whom were Democrats. And Donald Trump said to Kelly Ayotte, who was the Republican senator from New Hampshire, who lost narrowly, as he did in New Hampshire. Donald Trump said in this meeting, thousands of people were brought in on buses from neighboring Massachusetts to illegally vote in New Hampshire. So once again, the president is seeing multitudes that no one else sees. And it said there was an awkward silence. An awkward silence, and there were 6 Democratic senators in the room. I would hope that if you were one of those senators, you wouldn't have just been awkwardly silent, and you would have said, no, excuse me, Mr. President, that didn't happen.
I would have said something like that.
You would have?
I would have said, oh, come on.
What?
You got to stop doing this, Mr. President.
Right.
You know, just stop it. I mean, the 3 to 5 million illegal people didn't show up and vote for all of them for Hillary, and it didn't happen. And just stop doing that. It's very disturbing. And I asked Jeff Sessions about this in the judiciary hearings, and I said, the Attorney General is the one in charge of the laws in this country, including election laws. Did you kind of discuss this with him? Are you concerned about this? And this is very, very, very disturbing that the president has a habit of either imagining things or making stuff up. That's not, it's really outside the norm of not just of presidents, but of human beings.
All right. right, Al, you were great at the hearings. We love you for it. Senator Al Franken, everybody. Thank you. All right, thank you, Al. Let's meet our panel. Nice to meet you. Yes. Happy to have you here. You're very controversial.
I don't know why.
Well, we're going
I don't know why I'm lovely.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll find that out. I'm going to start with an open mind because, honestly, I only heard of you about a year ago. You're all of, what, 31?
32, but thank you.
Okay.
27 officially.
Okay. You look like Bruno. But, you know, he said he was 19.
You know, I told her to dial down the contouring. She didn't listen. Your makeup lady was just crazy.
All right. Anyway, so about a year ago, people started to tell me, are you going to get this guy Milo, you know, on your show? And I started to look into, you know, what you're saying. And look, I think you're colossally wrong on a number of things.
That's okay.
But if I banned everyone from my show who I thought was colossally wrong, I would be talking to myself.
Well, you wouldn't have Ann Coulter on, which is the only time I watch the show.
I wouldn't have Jack Kingston on, who's on tonight.
It's wonderful.
Okay. So I have an open mind. But so let's start with the contradictions about you, which is pretty crazy because you're gay and you're spoiler alert.
Oh, come on. You can do better than that. What tipped you off?
I've been reading about you. I mean, your mother's Jewish. You have a black Muslim boyfriend.
No, but I have a new one now. But
you did.
Still black, not Muslim.
Not Muslim, but he was Muslim?
There was somebody once.
Okay. Well, you've spoken
We don't
out
talk about it.
You've spoken out against all these people. Like you say, you don't hire gay people.
Oh, no, you can't trust them to show up to work on time. Too much drugs, too much sex, they never show up to work, always making excuses. No, no, no. I mean, not as bad as women, but no, I don't hire gays.
But you know that's not, I mean...
Oh, there we go.
But, you know, that's just...
Kidding. You're easy. You're very easy. Very easily triggered. It's pathetic.
Well, let's get to that. There's so many things I could start an argument with you about, but... because I know gay people who do show up to work. Okay, but, yes, but that is the reaction. You are so, let's say, helped by the fact that liberals just always take the bait.
Of course.
Now, you're a conservative. I'm a liberal.
Well,
that's the difference.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm conservative. I mean, I'm a
you work
libertarian.
for Breitbart, and you're a Trump supporter.
Well, it's interesting.
You're a conservative.
Well, it's interesting that the radical gay editorials, you know, saying interesting, provocative things about gays are now being published by Breitbart. And I don't think really that you can call Trump a traditional conservative. He's not that Republican.
No, you're correct about that.
So I don't know if that's fair.
He's
all
very
I care
dangerous.
All I care about is free speech and free expression. I want people to be able to do, and say anything.
You know
These days, you're right. That's a conservative position.
I care about the environment and living also. But free speech... But, I mean, you're right. I mean, you know,
That's a conservative position now, free speech.
We have both been disbarred at Berkeley. You know, I gave the commencement address.
Much more dramatically, I'd just like to say. I mean, they just disinvited you. I had riots. People got beaten up. You know?
Right. No, you do.
Horrendous.
Okay, you win, babe. You beat me out there. There were no riots.
It's not a competition. I'm just
No,
saying.
it's not a competition. But like when you make liberals crazy for that part of liberalism that has gone off the deep end.
Most of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
You're the only good one.
No,
You're literally the only good one.
No, I am so
Your
not...
side has gone insane. The Democrats are the party of Lena Dunham. These people are mental, hideous people. The more that America sees of Lena Dunham, the fewer, votes the Democrat Party is ever going to get. This is the people that she
Let's
invites
not
around.
pick on fellow HBO stars. There are so many other people...
Was I not supposed to do that?
No, of course you're...
They didn't brief me about that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but she is awful.
Excuse me, because we don't brief here, because it is free speech.
Well, I like that. I appreciate
I know.
it. Should we go with Amy Schumer?
But I'm not... See, another thing, I love Amy Schumer. Her show... but that's okay, we disagree.
No, but these people used to be funny before they contracted feminism. It's like Sarah Silverman. She was really, really funny when she was cracking...
Another someone I'm a fan of. Let's get off this. Let's talk about your humor, because I think a lot of people do miss your humor. And I'm a guy who always defends jokes.
Yeah.
Right up to the point where they pointlessly hurt people. Do you think you've ever... No, I hurt people.
No,
I have my whole career.
I hurt people for a reason.
But...
For sure. No, I like to think of myself as a virtuous troll.
But if somebody gets hurt because of truth needs to be said, like religion. I've always attacked religion.
Yes. Well, you're sound on Islam, unlike most of the people on your side. So
yes,
you're very good.
That's true.
Subject.
But all religion, I always say, is stupid and dangerous. That hurts.
Except
people.
Catholicism, which is awesome, but otherwise, yes.
Okay. Well, that shows you. And I hope when you look in the mirror tonight.
I'm very happy with what I see in the mirror. I don't see Bruno in the mirror.
I'm not talking about what you see. I'm talking what's in your head. When you recognize that you are a Catholic, I hope you say to yourself, gee, I'm also capable of bullshit, stupid thinking.
Well, everyone's capable of bullshit, stupid thinking,
right.
you know?
Right.
And that's okay. You know, it's a characteristic of the modern left, I think, requiring, you know, this absolute consistency and forgetting that people are messy and complicated. And forgetting also some obvious other human truths, I think, some realities of human psychology. Like, for instance, you know, the reason they want to police humor, you know, which is very important to both of us, is that they can't control it. Because the one thing that authoritarians hate is the sound of laughter. Because they can't control what people find funny.
And also because when people laugh, they know it's true.
Yeah, of course.
Because
nothing annoys people or amuses people like the truth.
Laughter is involuntary.
Exactly.
When you laugh, even if you don't really agree in that part of your mind.
Exactly.
Go, oh, shit,
and so I go to my college talks, you've got the professors
Right.
at the front who are there to kind of monitor me to make sure I don't go off the rails. And I make a joke about Ted Cruz or something, and they're like, you know, you can see it. You can see it. And the other thing that's really important is not just that, but the other thing is, you know, humor isn't how you drive people apart. You know, these sort of policing humor for racism and sexism is utterly wrong-headed. Not just because normally it isn't there, but because that's how we build bridges, not how we break them. You know, when you make a joke, that's how you connect with somebody. You know, you make jokes at the bar, you make awkward small talk. Humor's what brings people together, not what drives them apart.
Right.
And these basic, you know, fundamental human psychological insights, the progressive left is just forgotten.
The one area where I'm a little concerned is when you go after people individually, because, like I said, I will. If it's in the cause of a greater truth, you know, if people are hurt as you know, collateral damage, I'll go there. But like, I didn't understand like the Ghostbusters thing. First of all, who gives a fuck?
I wrote a bad review of a movie. Am I not entitled to do that? I said she looked like a dude. She does. You know, I said that, so she was barely literate. She is, and I simply don't accept. I do not accept that a Hollywood, you know, that the star of a Hollywood blockbuster, that an A-list mega celebrity is sitting in a Hollywood mansion crying over mean words on the internet. Get over it. And if you aren't over it, which I suspect you are, because it's not really the case that she's sitting there upset about mean words on the internet. Actually, she's been deployed by the studio because the movie's tanking. You know, you've just got to accept, I'm sorry, you've just got to accept mean words on the internet don't hurt anyone.
and also,
your Twitter feed, my Twitter feed, these are ugly, horrible things.
Every Twitter feed is. That's
no,
ugly.
they're not. They're wonderful.
They are.
When I had a Twitter, it was the funniest thing in America. It was fabulous. But you know, what actually hurts people is things that happen in the real world. I mean, I don't go on about it because I'm not a professional victim, but I do get syringes through my door, dead animals through my door. You say you get mean tweets, that's okay. It's not a competition. But what actually hurts people is like murder, violence, you know, that kind of stuff. Mean words doesn't hurt
Which
people.
some people would say you have incited.
What? How?
I'm just saying some people would say.
Well, they would be idiots.
Well,
they would be idiots.
Yeah. Okay. No, and I agree with you about the Twitter thing. I mean, I stopped reading most of my Twitter feed a long time ago because if I want to cry myself to sleep every night, I could just read my Twitter feed.
No, I love it. I get off on it. I love it. You know, I give my trolls marks out of 10.
But that's you, and you're a
little
special
broken.
kind of animal.
I'm a little broken. I give them marks out of 10. I used to retweet.
You're a little broken, and you're very wrong about certain things.
Like all comedians.
Well, like Black Lives Matter is a hate group, and that there's no such thing as white privilege. I mean, you do know that that's
We're happy to, you know, look, we can disagree on those things, and that's wonderful. The one thing that should unite us, the one thing that I think that you and I can both agree on, and the one thing that was so remarkable when that, I mean, I've never heard of him before, that silly man who had a hissy fit this week who refused to come on the show, that doesn't understand, is that
yes.
If you don't show up to debate, you lose.
Right.
And if you don't...
And also, stop taking the bait, liberals. The fact that they all freaked out
Wasn't
about
it
this
pathetic?
little impish British fag.
I know.
You schoolgirls.
It's so ridiculous.
Right?
Look, if I am...
You know what?
If I'm any...
somebody sent me this, which is so funny because they knew you were coming on.
Okay.
These are some things Joan Rivers, who, by the way, when she died, Obama, the liberal president that we all love, commented. They don't comment when someone dies.
a treasure.
Unless they're a national treasure.
Yeah.
He said, not only did she make us laugh, she made us think. Here's what she said on Michelle Obama. Blackie O, you know Michelle is a tranny. Robin Quivers, bitch, you look like a fucking mudslide. I hate Houston. It's crawling with bugs. Oh, wait, that's Whitney Houston.
You know, my favorite...
Exactly, but that's the person we find to be a national treasure. I'm just saying the line is kind of blurred.
And some of its context, you know, because somebody is perceived to have conservative politics, which I think I've said, it's at least questionable in my case.
Right.
Because somebody is perceived to have conservative politics, there are different rules. You can't make jokes. Other
But
people
you
do.
should get off the Trump train. Because
for a guy
who loves free speech,
he's fabulous.
For a guy who loves free speech, you've picked a weird boyfriend.
No.
That
He's
is
not
going to come out well.
No.
We don't have time to debate that.
Thanks for coming on. We'll do it again.
All right.